Am I supposed to say something?
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight here on our YouTube channel. I'm Darcy Furness, and I'm the nutrition consultant here in the South Surrey location. So I have happy news. We are now able to resume our free nutrition consults, albeit with some COVID protocols. But if you'd like to take advantage of our free nutrition services, please reach out to your local Choices Markets for your nutritionist to see how she can best help you. So to stay in touch with us, I advise that you go to our website, www.choicesmarkets.com, and sign up for our newsletter and our flyers, and it'll be delivered to your email box. So that keeps you on top of all things healthy, recipes, our sales, also upcoming events. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. So a couple of housekeeping duties. After the seminar tonight, I'm going to be sending you one of these little nutrition coupons. So what's going to happen is about 8:30, you're going to receive an email through Eventbrite, I'm pretty sure, and they're going to ask you for your full mailing address and a little survey they're going to ask you to complete as well. And then once we have your mailing address, we're going to mail you this nutrition coupon probably within 2 to 3 weeks. So you will be receiving that. And tonight, if you want to ask any questions of Leila, you can use the chat function in YouTube. You have to have your own account and be signed in to use this. So don't worry if you don't have that. If any questions aren't answered tonight, we'll be putting Leila's website up in the chat for you to see, and you're more than welcome to go through her website to get a copy of some handouts and just to deal a little bit further with her and ask her any questions. And this information will also be repeated in the follow-up email that will be sent to you tonight. Okay, so tonight I am delighted to introduce Leila Stuart. Leila is the owner of Centerpoint Yoga Therapy Studio here in beautiful White Rock, which was actually it was the first of its kind in Canada. She's practiced and taught yoga for over 40 years, and she's an author and she teaches yoga instructors internationally. Tonight, she's going to talk about yoga therapy as a transformative branch of yoga that can help us take active roles in our healing process, whatever our physical condition. And as Leila reminds us, if you can breathe, you can do yoga therapy. So please join me in welcoming our local treasure, Leila Stuart. Okay, over to you.
Thanks, Darcy. And thanks to Choices for having these great talks. And now they're on YouTube. So hello, everyone. I know you're out there, but I can't see you. And this is the first time that I've actually done a presentation like this without seeing anyone. So if I blub somehow, that's why, because normally I love having people, if not on screen. I mean, we used to have you right around and I could see you. And there's that lovely human interaction that happens when we're in eye contact. And now I'm just looking into my camera. So that said, I will give a short talk, about 15-20 minutes, I'm hoping, and we'll pause for a moment, and if there are any questions in the chat at that time having to do with what I've already said, then we can take a few questions there. And then we'll do a practice for about an hour. And then at the end, we'll have time for a few more questions if there are any. So what does yoga therapy have to say about heart health? When I think about heart health, I think there's really bad news and there's good news. And the really bad news is that heart disease is the #1 killer in North America. So along with cancer, I think the two of them together, it's something like almost 50%, 46% or something like that. So heart disease kills a lot of people. The good news is that there are some estimates that up to 95% of heart disease is preventable with lifestyle changes. And that's pretty amazing. So back in almost 40 years ago, Dr. Dean Ornish, some of you may have heard of him, started, he was a yogi and a meditator, and also a medical doctor researcher. And he started to research the effect of a lifestyle program on heart disease. So he started doing research with groups of people, most of whom had had heart attacks and had survived. So what he did was he designed a lifestyle program that included yoga. So I'll talk about that part in a minute. The other parts that he had in that program were a dietary part. So he designed a plant-based diet, very low fat. In the introductory stage, only 10% fat, and in the ongoing stage, 20% fat, and quite strict with that. So that's a part of it. And so that's where Darcy and other Choices dietitians can help you out making those sort of dietary choices. So no one part of this program was more important than any other part. So first there was diet, then there was exercise. So there was an aerobic part. So people would walk. If people couldn't walk, if they were in a wheelchair, then the people who could walk would wheel the people in the wheelchairs. So there was an aerobic part. There was a yoga part. So people committed to doing 1 hour a day of yoga movement, of breath work, of meditation, and of relaxation. And then the last part was group time. So support people met for 1 hour a week and connected, heart connections. Yeah. So just a couple of things about that program. It's been proven in many different research studies that this lifestyle program not only decreased the incidence of heart disease, lowered blood pressure, lowered blood sugar, increased heart rate variability, which is a measure of health. It's the difference between your heart rate increasing as you inhale and slowing down as you exhale, and that's mapped. And the higher that range is, the healthier you are. So heart rate variability went up, and this program has been replicated a number of times. It's been instituted in hundreds now, I think, of hospitals around the world, and medical insurance plans pay for it in the States. Even Medicare in the States pays for it. So I don't know why the Canadian medical system doesn't pay for it. Anyways, so one of the things that they found as they were going along is that the people were still dying in some populations, and what they figured out is that those groups were not including the support group, the heart connection. So that proved to Dean Ornish how important that part was. And the other interesting thing about this is that when in those groups, I think people committed to being on site for 1 week, where they learned all of these things, and it was a very intense process for them. But one of the things they found when they did all of the measurements was that they were expecting that the aerobic the aerobic component would produce certain physiological measurements. But what they discovered is that those measurements were good not only in the people who were pushing wheelchairs, the people who were walking themselves, but also the people in the wheelchairs. And so what they figured is that because the pair, the wheelchair, the wheelie and the wheeler, were having a heart connection, that increased the markers, the health markers. So that's what Dean Ornish found. And his first book was called Dr. Dean Ornish's Program for Reversing Heart Disease. And he called it that because it was the first time that anyone had ever proven that a lifestyle program could actually increase the size of the inside of the arteries, the lumen of the arteries. So what that meant is that all of the sludge that was in there was actually dispersing. So we know that when you have heart disease, you've got lots of plaque in there, and that increases blood pressure. So that was the first research that ever showed that, and that was a good 35 years ago. And I don't know why it's not being shouted from the rooftops. So his next book is called Spectrum, or The Spectrum. And what he discovered in his research is that the more lifestyle modifications that people did, the better their health markers were. So in this book, he goes through all different kinds of ways that you can improve your health, and he suggests that you do as many as you can. So taking the yoga part of that, let's look at what yoga, I'm really going to try and time myself so I don't talk too much. Let's look at what yoga has to say, the yoga tradition has to say about the heart. So those of you who have been on presentations with me before know that I work with an ancient model, thousands of years old, called the Koshik model. And what the ancients came up with is this map, or this model of all our different levels of experience as human beings. And they saw that they saw 5 different levels, and I'll talk about those in a minute, and that each of those levels affected all the other levels. So the levels go from the most dense, the physical, to the most refined, the spiritual. And I'll talk a little bit about how each of the koshas has to do with heart health. Okay, so the first kosha is the physical kosha, Annamaya kosha. And this kosha is all of our structure. So our bones, our muscles, our organs, all of our structures. And Annamaya means the body of food. So this part of us, this body, is affected by the food that we put into it, the quality of the food we put into it, by the movement that we do, or the lack thereof, our alignment, how we carry ourselves. So looking at what happens on this kosha when there's heart disease, what often happens is that there's stiffness in the body all over, and that stiffness actually goes all the way into our organs and into our blood vessels. So our blood vessels get stiff. And when they get stiff, they don't have the flexibility to have the free flow of blood. Okay? So when that happens, our blood pressure goes up, We get deposition of the plaque in the arteries. And what we can do on this level is asana or yoga movements. And there are movements that are very helpful for heart problems. So when you think of where the heart is, here it is in the chest. And I'm a massage therapist, so I've worked with lots of people who have had bypass surgery. I've worked with people who have high blood pressure. So I've worked with the whole spectrum of people. And what I have found is that there's some general conditions that I found. So there's often lots of tension in the shoulders and the neck, often the jaw as well, tension in the chest, and some of that, and in the upper back. And just generalized tension in the whole body. And often that tension comes because the breath is not full. And so whenever this whole rib cage, spine, all of that is not moving fully with the breath, then it gets kind of shrink wrapped, and it gets tense, and then the fascia in it sort of shrink wraps us, so it becomes impossible to take a deep breath. So when we work with asana in Anamaya Kosha, the physical body, we want to open up the chest, we want to open up the upper back, we want to make sure that the spine is moving in all directions, we want the shoulders to be free, we want there to be movement in the ribs so that the heart can work as well as it can. Yeah? So that's Anamaya Kosha. Then Pranamaya Kosha, that's our breath body. So prana is our life force energy. It's what animates the structure, our physical body, and makes us alive. Yeah, when we don't have any prana, then the structure is not alive. Yeah, so breath is the manifestation of prana in our body. So when we are not having good breath, then we get exhausted. Yeah, we aren't getting enough oxygen to our tissues. So people think that it's oxygen that is the most important breath gas, and it is very important because all of the functions in the human body need oxygen in order to take place. But it's actually our carbon dioxide levels that determine how much oxygen gets to our cells. So if we are breathing a more shallow upper chest breath, then we actually are breathing out too much carbon dioxide. And the result is that the oxygen doesn't leave the blood, the hemoglobin in the blood, and actually get to the cells. So hyperventilation or shallow upper chest breathing is very correlated with heart disease. Yeah. I think there's been some interesting research done on this. One study, this is probably 30 years ago, this study, but it showed, reviewed everyone, all the people who were in a cardiac ward in a hospital over some time. And there were, I don't know how many hundreds of people, but every single person in the heart ward was a shallow upper chest breather. Yeah. So another study done in a different country, but took people who had had a cardiac event, a heart attack, taught them yogic breathing, followed them over a certain amount of time. And what they found is that their chances of having a second heart attack were decreased by half. Yeah, so that's pretty amazing. So there is an incredible connection between our heart and our lungs. And I want to show you a little video that demonstrates that. So bear with me for a moment. Okay, so this is the diaphragm. There's some organs underneath. This is the heart. Those are the lungs. So here we go. Watch how the heart rides on top of the diaphragm. And you can see right there the connection between them. Yeah, there's a fascial connection. The covering of the heart connects with the diaphragm. Okay, I just want to show you that one more time. So what that means is that if the diaphragm is going down more, then it's pulling the heart down, and that creates elasticity in the tissue of the heart. So if we're doing shallow upper chest breathing, then the diaphragm is not descending very much, and so the heart doesn't get moved. Yeah. So when we work with the breath in yoga, we want to get the diaphragm to descend further. Okay. That's one of my favorite videos. Okay. So what's great about our bodies is that the breath is the one autonomic function. So our heart, our breath, our blood flow, all of that takes place without us doing anything. But the breath is the one function, physiological function, that we can actually take conscious control over. So that becomes very important in when we work with yoga. So when we work with the breath in yoga, as far as the heart is concerned, we want to become aware of the breath. We want to become aware of what your breath habits are. Are you a high, shallow breather? And can you learn to breathe in a way that is lower, that is slower, and that is where the diaphragm descends a little more, and that is calm. Yeah. Okay, so I'll talk just a little bit more. So the third level is the level of the mind. Yeah. And in the yoga tradition sees the mind as our thoughts and also our emotions. It's the part of us that learns, that receives sensory information from all of our senses. And so when we work with this level, as far as yoga therapy for the heart, we want to do a few things. We want to, number one, look at how you handle stress. Because stress, of course, is one of the main predictors of high blood pressure and heart disease. And we know now in the last several years that stress increases the level of systemic inflammation in the body. And so we know from lots of studies, there's lots and lots of studies on yoga these days, something like 200 a year coming out. And we know that from those studies that yoga can decrease blood pressure and can decrease inflammation and can decrease blood sugar. Yeah, so all of those things that are risk factors for heart disease. So when we work with this level in yoga therapy, we want to look at what are you doing with your emotions? And is there a way that we can use breath and use movement and actually use your mind, befriend your mind to self-regulate, to do some emotional regulations, emotional regulation, not regulations. And the other thing is that we want you to know what relaxation response means. Yeah. So the relaxation response is a really important part of decreasing heart disease. So in order to do that, you need to be able to sense what's going on in you and sense what are the sensations of anger, what are the sensations of relaxation. Yeah, so that's monomyokosha, the mind. Then we've got a more refined level of our what's called the wisdom body, or the part that is kind of underneath our thoughts, making our thoughts happen. So there's a couple of parts on this level. There's our ego, so our personality, our conditioning, our cultural conditioning, our family conditioning, and our personality, what we came in with. And there's another part, which is our higher mind, or our wisdom mind. And that's the part of us that can see from a higher level, can have some perspective looking down. It's the part of us that sometimes comes to us in dreams or in flashes of insight or intuition. It's the wisdom part of us that knows and that can see, oh, you're caught in your conditioning. And it's the part that can make an intention, form an intention to, you know what, I'm going to start doing X, Y, and Z to help my heart health. I'm going to make a commitment to do that. This is the part that gives us some kind of self-reflection. So we can look at ourselves, oh, there I go again. I dropped into that habit again. Well, you know what? That I can make a different decision tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, this is the part that is also subject to any unresolved trauma that we have. So if we haven't dealt with that, and sometimes we don't even know we have it, but unresolved trauma can also really ramp up blood pressure, yeah, and can keep us more in our sympathetic mode. So we know that the nervous system has modes. Our sympathetic mode, which we use when we need to be alert and aware and doing things, action-oriented. And of course, it's our sympathetic mode that takes us into fight or flight if we perceive danger. And then our parasympathetic system, which is our rest and digest. All of our organs are work in parasympathetic. And so what we want to do with our yoga therapy program for heart health is to take you more into your parasympathetic mode so that all of your organs can work better, your heart will work better, your breath will be softer, your digestion will work better. So we want to get you more there and less in sympathetic. We need both. We need both. So the last level is our joy body, sometimes called, or our bliss body. And this is the part of us that senses that there is something more than this. That there is something greater than us, and it's the part of us that can connect on a heart level with other people And it's the part of us that is sometimes just struck with the absolute perfection of life, or just overwhelming feelings of gratitude at something that's happened, or just the fact of being alive. So it's the greater context. And because the ancients saw these 5 layers as layers that are actually covering the light of the soul, then this is the part that's closest to the soul, and that can reflect the qualities of the soul. So the love, the peace, the compassion, the stillness. Yeah. And we know that from the research that people who don't feel very connected, or people who live alone, don't have as long a lifespan. And so we are hardwired for connection. And if we don't have it, then it can have an effect on our health. And certainly during these COVID times, when we're not having the kinds of connections that we normally would, I think you would probably agree with me that we're all suffering somewhat. Okay, so that's what I want to say about yoga therapy and heart health, and I'll be incorporating this into our practice. So, Darcy, are there any questions?
Not yet, Leila. I think we're good so far. I've posted some information, but I think everyone's looking forward to doing some practice.
Okay, good. All right, thank you. So you will need a chair. So if you're sitting on a couch, you probably want to go and grab yourself a chair. And I will move my chair back a little bit so you can see me. Maybe. Good. Okay. All right. So if you could, oh, I should say before we start that there are a few pointers for those of you who do have coronary artery disease or high blood pressure, that you probably don't want to hold your arms up over your head for a really long time. A short amount of time is fine. Yeah. The other thing since we're doing this in a chair and standing, you don't have to worry about it, but putting your head lower than your heart, unless you have something close by in case you get dizzy, is also not a great idea. But everything that we're going to do today is going to be very doable. And if it doesn't feel okay for you, then you have options. You can modify it as much as you can. So if I'm asking you to raise your arm and your shoulder isn't very happy with that today, then you might only raise your arms like this. Yeah. So you can modify it. You can make it smaller, or you can do it fewer times. Or the third thing is you can just not do it. You can sit it out. So nothing that I'm doing you have to do, and you are the boss of your own body. I can't even see you to say, oh, so and so, try this. I can't even see you. So you have to be very aware of any little voice in your body or any little niggling discomfort that means that you're coming to a place that maybe you shouldn't be going to. So when in yoga and in my studio here, the the main overarching principle is self-compassion. Yeah, so I don't want you to do anything that isn't full of compassion for yourself. And then self-compassion means keeping yourself safe. It means honoring what your body is saying. And it means only doing what feels okay. Yeah. All right, so that said, if you could come just a little bit forward on your chair and sit so that you can feel your sitting bones. You can feel yourself on your sitting bones. Some of us have a tendency to roll back on our sitting bones, so our back is rounded a little bit. Some of us are pitched forward. So as much as you can, find, and you might even play with that a little bit, just rolling back and forth on your sitting bones, and find a place where you can sit a little bit forward on your sitting bones so that you've got a bit of an arch in your back. Okay. So if it feels okay, you could close your eyes. Otherwise, just turn your gaze down to the floor. The first practice that we're going to do is a body scan. So a body scan is a way of turning your attention from the outer world and bringing it into your inner world. And that in itself can start calming your nervous system down. So take a moment, and as you inhale, just imagine that you're pulling all of your energy from out there in the world, anywhere you've left it, with other people or other situations or other objects. And as you exhale, get a sense of settling your own energy in your own body. Do that 2 more times. And then turn your attention to your feet and notice how your feet are resting on the floor. Where do you feel pressure? Where are your feet pressing into the floor? And where are they not? Do you have an arch or behind the toes? Space behind the toes. And noticing the outline of your feet on the floor. If somebody were to draw a trace around the outside of your feet, what would that look like? And notice any sensations in your feet. Can you feel some cold air or your clothes on touching the top of your foot, pants? Or is there some discomfort? And then moving your awareness up to your ankles and your calves and your shins, so your lower legs. So in your mind's eye, getting a sense of the shape of your lower legs. And noticing any sensations. Are your lower legs talking to you? Can you feel the air? Is there some warmth or some coolness? Can you feel your clothes? And then moving your attention to your knees, the roundness of your knees and your thighs, the front of your thigh, the inside, the back of your thigh, the sides. And noticing sensation there. Can you get a sense of the shape of your thighs? So it's like your mind is saying hello to that part of you. And usually we don't say hello to any part of us unless it's hurting. But right now we're just saying hello to all of us. So turning your attention now to your pelvis, to your sitting bones, to your pelvis, to your belly, to your low back, your sacrum. And maybe your chair is hard and you're feeling your sitting bones. Maybe you need to put a cushion underneath your bum. Can you feel your breath in your belly? Can you feel your breath in your low back? Maybe you can feel your intestines making sounds and squeezing in there. And then moving your attention to your chest and your ribs and your upper back, your spine. Getting a sense of the bones, of the organs inside your heart, your lungs, your big liver, your kidneys, and noticing any sensations there. And then turning your attention to your arms, to your shoulders and your upper arms, your elbows, your forearms, your wrists, your hands. The totality of your arms. Saying hello and noticing, sensing. With your eyes closed, how do you know you have arms? And then turning your attention to your shoulders, your neck, your head, your face, your jaw, your eyes, your ears, and inside your brain. And notice the quality of your mind right now. How would you name that? And then slowly opening your eyes if your eyes are closed. Arriving back in the room, maybe just looking around a little bit and orienting yourself, noticing a couple of objects, noticing a couple of colors, and feeling yourself sitting in the chair again, feeling your sitting bones, feeling your feet on the floor. Okay, so one of the ways that yoga can help heart health, improve heart health, is to increase circulation. And we do that through squeezing and through moving. So we'll start doing just a little warm up. So if you could wiggle your fingers in any way that feels interesting, and then you can open and close them. So the act of opening and closing things, of moving things, creates a muscular contraction that actually helps your circulation. So then your wrists, you can shake your wrists in all different directions. You can circle them. And then your elbows, they mostly just bend and straighten, but they've also got a little rotation. Yeah. So this is where you're watching your own body and listening to what it's saying. Okay, and then shoulders. Up and back and forward and circle, one circle forward, one circle back, and then the other way. Good. And then shifting your ribs a little from side to side. And then taking one leg up, and you can hold the back of your thigh with your hand and giving it a bit of a shake. And then flex and extend, so point toes, straighten toes. Boy, my foot looks really big in the camera. Circling a little bit both ways. Good. And then the other side, shaking. And then point and flex, point and flex. A little bit of shaking. Good. And then just opening and closing the legs. Good. And then like you're running. Good. Okay. It's a short warm up, but just get a sense of the sensations in your body now, just after doing that. Are they different? I can feel a little effervescence from that running. Noticing what you feel. Okay, so we're going to work with the breath now, and we're going to do first some movements to open up the capacity of the lungs. So if you remember what I was saying, often people with heart problems tend to have chests that are closed. Yeah. So we want to open the chest up a little bit, and we start with the neck. So if you imagine that you've got a little marker pen on your nose and that there's a sheet of paper in front of you, I invite you to start drawing a tiny little figure eight with your nose up, a vertical figure eight. Start small. And if that feels okay, then start going a little bit further up, further down. And start lowering your eyes, looking down to the floor, and then eyes to the ceiling. And if you start getting dizzy at all, then make it a much smaller movement. Notice which direction you're going and go the opposite direction. Continue figure eight movement. And then come to stop. And now imagine that you want to draw a figure eight that is horizontal, starting small and then gradually getting bigger. So with your little marker on your nose, start drawing a horizontal figure eight. And notice as you do that there's a corresponding movement in the back of the neck. Notice how far down you feel that, maybe into your spine. So you can, if you want, gradually start to increase the size of the figure eight. And looking now, using your eyes to look behind you as you look to the left, look farther to the left with your eyes. Good. Notice which direction you're going, and then change that and go the opposite direction. And then let that go. And now imagine that you're going to draw again, a horizontal figure eight, but now a back and forth figure eight. So away from you and towards you. So with your nose, you're drawing a little figure eight that goes forward and back. Kind of like a chicken neck. Let the movement draw your spine forward and draw your spine back. Notice which direction you're moving and then go the opposite way. And then bring that smaller and smaller and then back. Okay. So we want to create as much room as possible in the rib cage for the lungs to expand, because what you didn't see in that video is that as the lungs expand, they squeeze the heart. So the more the lungs expand, the more the heart gets squeezed, and the more the heart gets squeezed, then the more elastic it gets. And the more elastic it is, the less likely that plaque will be deposited in the arteries. So we want to get as much movement in this area as possible. So with that in mind, if you could take hold of your left wrist with your right hand. I'll turn sideways so you can see me. Do this. So you have the most lung capacity in the back. Yeah. The chest is the chest is flat, but we've got rounded ribs in the back, and that's where the most lung capacity is. So what we'll do is as you inhale and send your inhalation into the back, pull your arm forward a little bit and send all of your breath into the back. And then as you exhale, just putting your hands on your lap. So do that a few times, inhaling into your back, especially in the side that you're in, the left side that you're pulling, and then relax. So doing that a few times. And last time. Now take hold of the right wrist with the left hand and continue. Inhaling, sending your breath now into the right upper back, and exhaling and coming back. And it doesn't have to be a big deal breath, just a regular breath. In fact, sometimes when we breathe too deeply, we change that oxygen CO2 level in a way that doesn't give you more oxygen in your cells. So one last time, nice and light and easy. And then let that go. Good. Just take a moment to feel the effects of that. Usually when we start opening up space, prana is released because it gets kind of stuck when our muscles are in tension. Okay, if you could now take your left hand and put it on your left ribs. Take a moment and feel the breath expanding into your hand. Have your right arm dangling. And on your next inhalation, tip over to the right and send your breath into your ribs underneath your hand. And then as you exhale, come on up again. So your own breath rhythm, just a nice, easy breath, nice, easy inhalation as you tip sideways. And exhaling as you come up. And this next time, stay down there and take a few inhalations into your ribs beneath your hands. And see as you exhale if there's a little bit more sideways bend. Maybe, maybe not. And then on your next exhalation, coming back. Take a moment here and notice what feels different on that side. What do you notice? What arises in your mind? Okay, and now take the right hand onto the right lower ribs. Take a few moments and tune into the breath, the movement of the ribs. They're spreading apart. They're also expanding sideways as you inhale. At least that's what they're designed to do. And then same thing on this side. Arm hanging. Take yourself into a side bend as you inhale. Send your breath into part of your lungs underneath your hands. And then as you exhale, come to straight. The next time you're down, stay. And take 3 or 4 breaths, inhaling into your hand. And as you exhale, is there just maybe a little more release? Maybe, maybe not. And on your next exhalation, coming back, taking a moment to notice what happened. Okay, so now we want to, so we've worked with the back, we've worked with the sides, and now we want to work with the front. And I'll just turn sideways again so you can see me. So here, I want to clasp my hands behind my back. And if your hands don't reach, you can grab a towel or anything you've got close to you between your hands to take your hands back there. I'm going to clasp my hands. So now as I inhale, I'm going to send my inhalation into my chest area. So as I inhale, I'm going to lift my arms away from my back. That's going to open up my chest. I'm going to send my breath there. And then as I exhale, I'm going to relax my arms back down to the chair. So in your own breath rhythm, inhaling, nice, easy, calm inhalation, and exhaling, releasing. Doing that a few more times. And let this be the last time. Come on back. Okay, so hopefully that's opened up things a little bit. Noticing your breath, has it changed at all? Okay, so the breath that I would like to share with you tonight is called the coherent breath or coherent breathing. And again, there's been quite a bit of research done on it. And research found that when we breathe 4 to 6 times per minute, then the electrical current of our heart, our brain, and our lungs is entrained. And it turns out that somewhere around 6 breaths per minute is the rhythm of the rosary, the Roman Catholic rosary, some Buddhist chants. So there seems to be something magical about that. And it's not that we have to breathe that way all the time, but when we practice that, it encourages that entrainment, and it takes our nervous system into the state that is the place we can heal. Yeah, the parasympathetic system. That's the state that we heal in. We cannot heal when we're in sympathetic arousal. Yeah? So we'll work our way up to it. And you may have a count of 4 and 6 or whatever, it doesn't really matter, but I'll lead you through a way of finding what your comfortable rate is. And we're going to tie it to our pulse. So what I'd like you to do is find your pulse. And so there's 2 places you can find your radial pulse on the thumb side of your hand. So just above the wrist crease, toward the thumb side. And you might need to move around to find it. And you don't want to press in really hard. So that's one place you can find it. And the other place is in your neck. So if you find the cartilage and then go just beside the cartilage, it might be, for me, it's easier to find it on my neck, but for you, it might be different. And if you can't find your pulse, don't worry about it. Yeah, it's not necessary. So we want to count how many heartbeats in 10 seconds. So I will count down, looking at my clock. 3, 2, 1, go. and stop. Okay, so if you had, say, 12 counts, then you might want to inhale for 6 and exhale for 6 eventually. But we're going to start just with 2 of each. So keep your hand on your pulse, or if you didn't find your pulse, then just count 1, 2, 1, 2. So what I'd like you to do is inhale to 2 heartbeats and exhale to 2 heartbeats. And if that feels short, or if you want to go more, then go to 3. 3 counts inhale and 3 counts exhale. So if this feels comfortable, then stay there. If you'd like to try 4 counts, then go ahead and do that. So if that feels like your place, then stay there. If you'd like to go a little farther, then try 5 counts. Now, if you're going more, if at any point you feel any kind of breathlessness or that you're trying to grab the breath, then go back. Yeah. Because that means you just need to spend a little more time at each stage before you get to 5 or 6. Okay, so you might also, for some of you, want to go to 6. We'll stay somewhere around 5, but if you feel like 6 is your number, then you just do that. So one thing that we know about the breath, as I was saying before, the heartbeat increases on the inhalation and it decreases on the exhalation. So when we make our exhalation longer than the inhalation, then we spend more time in our parasympathetic nervous system. So that's what I'd like you to play with now. So if you had 5 and 5, now try making it 4 and 6. Or if you had 4 and 4, make it 3 and 5. So make the exhalation longer than the inhalation. And only keep it at a comfortable, it's got to be comfortable, no strain. You may notice your pulse getting slower as you do this breathing. It can happen. Okay, 2 more breaths. And then when you finished, just sitting quietly for a few moments and noticing what's happened with that coherent breath. You might bring up a word or two or a phrase to describe any changes to yourself. So we're going to now take that breath, take that coherent breath, whatever your ratio is, a little bit longer on the exhalation, so 4 and 6 or 3 and 5, whatever it is. And we'll take that into our movement practice now. Okay. So my movement may be longer or shorter than yours. It doesn't matter. So you don't have to be doing exactly the same thing as me. So I'll show you this first movement. It's a little sequence with three breaths. And I should say one more thing, that not just extending the exhalation brings you into that parasympathetic nervous system, but also when we get our breath lower down. So as you're doing these movements, think of breathing more into your belly. In fact, let's just do that. Let's, if you could, with me, take your hands onto your belly. And as you inhale, think of sinking your breath down into your lower lungs. That's where most of the blood is anyways. All the blood vessels are down there because of gravity. And feel your breath filling as you inhale and softening and condensing a little as you exhale. Doing your coherent breath count. You're not feeling your pulse, but you know about what the count is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or whatever it is. So keep breathing that way, and I'll show you the first movement. It's called the newspaper stretch. And it works with neck, shoulders, chest, upper back. As I exhale, I'll bring my hands up as though I'm looking at a newspaper. As I inhale, my elbows go up as far as is comfortable. I look up if that's okay for my neck. As I exhale, I take my chin down to my chest. As I inhale, I lower my elbows and open my arms, squeezing my shoulder blades together. And as I exhale, I push forward, rounding my upper back. And as I inhale, my hands back on my lap. So shall we do that together? Take a few breaths, coherent breaths. And taken as you're on your next exhalation, bring your hands up as though you're reading a newspaper. As you inhale, look up as you take your hands up toward the ceiling. As you exhale, keep the elbows going higher as the chin comes down to the chest. As you inhale, arms open out to the side, shoulder blades squeeze together. And exhale, pushing forward. Inhaling, hands on the lap. Exhale, hands up. Inhale, looking up. Exhale, elbows up, looking down, chin down. Inhale, opening to the side, squeezing the shoulder blades together. And exhale, forward. And inhaling back. Let's do that one more time. Exhaling, hands up. Inhale, looking up, elbows up. Exhale, chin down. Inhale, shoulder blades squeeze together. And exhale, forward. Taking a moment. We always pause after we do a practice so that we can allow our mind to register the sensations. Okay, let's do a standing pose. So please come to standing. And have your chair handy in case you need to hold on to it. So if you could take your right foot forward and turn your left foot out just a little bit. This pose is called Warrior One, and we're doing it in a way that will open the chest. Okay? So if you could start with your hands in prayer pose. I'm just going to turn sideways and show you the movement first. So as I inhale, my knee bends and my arms open. And again, I squeeze my shoulder blades together. And then as I exhale, I push off my front foot and bring my hands back together. Okay, so let's do that together, shall we? So you're doing your coherent breath. You're breathing into your belly as much as you can. So taking an exhalation. And then as you inhale, strong back leg anchor as the front knee bends. And then as you exhale, pressing into the front foot to come up to standing. So in your own time, do that 2 more times. Taking the full count of your coherent breath to go into the pose and to come out of the pose, the longer exhalation. Then changing legs. Good. And then coming to standing, arms alongside your body. And just noticing how you're standing and if that feels any different than your normal standing. Okay, and then come on back to your chair. I'd like to finish the practice. So this will be almost an hour of practice, and that's the commitment in Dr. Dean Ornish's program that can make such a big difference in heart health. And you can go online and search his research, but some of the statistics are quite astounding in terms of effects, like the angina pain is one of the first things to come down, blood pressure, cholesterol levels, heart rate, blood sugar, stress hormones. So it's a good commitment to make. Yeah? And even if you don't have the opportunity to do an hour at a time, you can do 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there, 10 minutes there. So I'd like to finish with a meditation. And one of the things that we know about heart disease is that there's often a closing down of the heart on some level, not just the physical level, but maybe the emotional level. Maybe there's been some past pain or betrayal or something like that. So when we can start moving that stuck energy in the heart, it can actually have a physical effect. So what I'd like you to do is just place your hands crossed on your heart. Feel your hands, feeling your heart. Maybe you can feel your heartbeat. Close your eyes, tune into your heart, your sweetheart. And imagine that you can breathe into your heart through your hands, and that you can breathe directly out of your heart. So for the next few breaths, imagine as you inhale into your heart, that you're inhaling the quality of peace. And that as you exhale, you're exhaling stress. Just let your breath be what it is. You don't have to do the coherent breath now. Inhaling peace and exhaling stress. And for the next few breaths, imagine that you are inhaling trust, whatever that means to you. And that as you're exhaling, you exhale control. Maybe as you inhale, even trying to recapture the feeling of trust. What does that feel like in your body when you trust? And the next few breaths, as you inhale, inhaling the quality of love. And as you exhale, exhaling fear. And the next few breaths, as you inhale, imagine inhaling joy and exhaling sadness when you exhale. And the next few breaths, imagine inhaling calm and exhaling chaos. And the next few breaths, imagine inhaling the quality of relaxation. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, or at least imagine. And the next few breaths, as you inhale, imagine inhaling clarity. And as you exhale, exhale confusion. And then lastly, as you inhale, inhale love. And as you exhale, exhale love. And then just sitting quietly for a moment, feeling the effects of the practice. If you can, I encourage you to lie down for 10 minutes after this is over and really let the practice integrate. So that's the Love Your Heart practice. And you will be able to see it again on the Choices YouTube. And if you would like to receive the handouts for some of these practices, you can go to my website. I'll just say it, www.leilastuart.com, LeilaStuart, and make that request, and I will send you this practice that we just did, the newspaper one, and the coherent breath as well. So thank you so much for your presence and your attention, and hope to see you sometime. And Darcy, are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Leila. I'm so relaxed now. I have to bring myself back into work mode. I would lie down, but you wouldn't be able to see me. Thank you again for sharing your generous gifts. It's really lovely. No questions, a couple comments saying thank you very much for sharing. I have a question because I know that you're offering yoga classes online. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that will look like should any of us choose to join into one of your online classes?
Yeah, I'm teaching 2 classes on Thursdays. They are semestered classes, so we do 11-week semesters. So we're just in the middle of one now, and we'll start up another one in April. So if you're interested, you can get on my mailing list, and you will get information about that. And every semester we choose a theme. So the theme for this semester is building strength on all of those Koshik levels. And we did a lot of nervous system work over the COVID times. That was the theme for a few semesters, building resilience. So it's all very gentle, and I can see you in my Zoom class.
Nice.
And I know your medical history because you would have filled out a medical history form. So yoga therapy is very different than regular yoga classes. We engineer the classes according to who's in the class, and just about everybody has something going on. But if I know what that is, then I can give modifications for that. And yeah, so
And
if you're interested, then please, or just call me as well. And I always like to have a conversation with people before they join a class, just to make sure that the class is a fit. Yeah.
Nice. And we just sort of angle our computer screens towards the floor, Leila, for those of us that haven't done an online class before.
Yeah. So I change my screen as I stand up and as I lie down. And I ask people to do that too, so that I can see them. Yeah, but some
Lovely.
people don't, and some people are in tiny little places. we make do. And
That's
I've
wonderful.
got a studio full of props, but not everyone has those props at home. So we're using blankets and cushions and books and dressing gown belts and all kinds of towels, all kinds of things. So because in yoga therapy, we tend to be very prop intensive, because it's helpful to lie over a pillow rather than force yourself into a back bend. Yeah. So it's all very gentle, and we're all yoga therapists have extra training. I was grandfathered in because I'm a massage therapist and I've been doing yoga therapy for so long that they thought I deserved to be certified. Yeah, so please do get in touch if you've got any questions.
That's wonderful. Thank you very much for being so creative as well, Leila, during this really challenging time for all of us. Let's all hope that by fall we can actually get together live. Wouldn't that be amazing? But
no, I would love to be back in that Choices seminar room.
oh, right? I know it seems like so long ago now, but we'll get there. I know we will.
Okay.
Anyways, thank you all so much for coming
Thank
tonight.
you. Yeah, thank you, Darcy. Thank you, Choices.
You're very welcome, Leila. Thank you again for joining us. So thank you all. You will be receiving an email with a brief survey, and in that email, we'll be asking you to give us your mailing address so you can receive your nutrition coupon. And please take Leila up on her offer for these handouts. That would be a wonderful addition to, I know to my day it's going to be, so I'm sure it will be to yours as well. So thank you all again for coming, and please enjoy this YouTube seminar again when you have time. And you've got a built-in practice every day. We can check back in and be with Leila. That'll be great. Thanks again, everyone.
Love your dear heart.
Right? There you
love
go.
your dear heart.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody. Take care.